everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
And we're back. Baby, it's been a short 4 weeks. It's been a long 4 weeks, Allie. I feel like it both flew by and also so much happened.
I was going to say, in terms of football, everything happened in the 4 weeks that we were gone.
A lot of off-season movement. Nobody took the time to break for the holidays. Everybody just kept going. And don't worry, because we're going to update all of you listeners on all of that in this episode. Allie, before we get onto it, did you forget, or are you wearing something again for everybody? Syracuse. Nice. Nice.
I am wearing a hoodie from Syracuse University. Go Orange.
Nice. I am wearing a shirt that Allie sent me in this break. It says property of Miss Williams. That would be Haley Williams of Paramore / of Haley Williams. You should go listen to her album. It's fantastic.
Miss Williams if you're nasty, as I'm
Miss
told
Williams if you're nasty.
reliably.
You get it. You know.
I actually don't, but my flatmate is obsessed with Paramore, so I've learnt through osmosis.
You're welcome. Let's tell everybody what we're doing in this episode, Allie, because we got a packed episode. The WSL is back. We just talked about how much is happening, and we're going to cover all of it.
Yeah, so we're going to give you a recap of what's happened in the 4 weeks since we've been away. There's been lots of transfer news. There's been lots of movement shaking. We're then going to talk about the WSL and the title race because it's all happening. The big question is this Manchester City's to lose? And then, finally, there is all sorts of drama and nonsense going on in the world as a whole of women's football. So we're going to talk about the Qatar of it all and the possibility of them hosting a tournament in 2028 and the ramifications of that. So stay tuned because it is, as you said, action-packed.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the updates on the Trinity Rodman / high impact player situation as well. Speaking of drama.
Because it's not ended.
It's not even close to ended, Allie. All right, so let's do it.
So we're going to start with the movements and shaking in the NWSL, which is almost back. It feels like they've only just finished, but it is due to kick all back off very shortly. So, first things first, who has had a great off-season in terms of movements, transfers? Who's done it?
Yeah, it is wild because the Challenge Cup in its new format, the Shield winner versus the championship winner will play each other on February 20th. So that's like a month away. And then the regular season is like 2 months away. Listen, I have to give it to Denver, the brand new team who's going to play their first NWSL games in March, has had, in my opinion, the most epic offseason so far. And we'll start with the Lindsay Heaps to Denver move that happened on Monday. Well, it was announced on Monday. She's going to move to Denver. We all know she's from Denver. This is somewhat of a homecoming. We're going to imagine, or I'm going to imagine, that she'd play out the last of her career at home in front of her friends and family in Denver. But then you kind of pair that with all of the other signings, and it's pretty incredible. They've signed Carson Pickett. They acquired Janine Sonis, previously known as Janine Becky, the Canadian international, in a trade with Racing Louisville. They signed Una McCormack from Florida State. And in my opinion, most notably, this is close to my heart as somebody who did a ton of Stanford soccer commentary, Jasmine Ike is coming out of college into the NWSL, and Denver signed her. Now, in my opinion, this is the best player in college soccer. Actually, not just my opinion. She won the Mac Herman Trophy Award, which is the award for the best player in college soccer. It's awarded to one woman and one man every single year. If you watch college football, think of the Heisman Trophy. That is what it is, and she just won it. She is impeccable. She plays the number 10. I think that they're building a team around her to build a future around her. And I think when you pair that with some of the vets that they've signed around her, I think that this team might be set up for a lot of success, Allie.
So you pumped for the Denver train is what you're telling me.
I kind of am. And you know what? Their colors? I'm into it. All right. I'm going to turn it on you now. That's NWSL. WSL is obviously still in season, halfway through the season, but there is a very notable January transfer window that is underway in the WSL. So, Allie, who is the biggest winner so far?
At the moment, and it pains me to say it, it's Tottenham. Tottenham have done some business this January. They've moved some players on, and we're going to talk about it when we talk about the transfers, because there was one that was an absolute shocker, I think, to everybody that has moved on from Tottenham. But, we're seeing Julia Blackstead is back in the WSL. She's been away in the German league for a while. And now she's back. She was at Man City for a while, and she's now with Tottenham. And they've really plugged a gap, because they've seen that this is the season that they're finally fulfilling their potential. And we'll get onto that when we talk about title race.
All right. I love the foreshadowing there. I love it. All right. So let's get into it just a little bit more in depth on some big signings that have happened in the last 4 weeks. Jenna Neiswanger, first and foremost, she has been freed. She's freed from Arsenal, and shame on you, Arsenal. And I'm happy for Jenna. Allie, say more.
Yeah, so we all thought she was coming back to the NWSL. That was the rumour, that she was going to find a team. And then out of nowhere, it's announced that she's gone to Villa for the rest of the season. Which, you know what? Great business by Villa. That is some shoring up a back line. She's actually going to finally get the game time that she's been craving at Arsenal. They've moved Sarah Mailing over onto Leicester to make room, and it will be an interesting fit. I think she is going to slot in, but it is only for the rest of this season. The likelihood is she will then go onto a NWSL team at the end of the WSL season, which is in May.
All right, I think we have to just immediately jump into the next biggest question mark rumor that has been swirling around. Is it even a rumor at this point? Sam Coffey has been rumored to be going to City. They are rumored to be in the final parts of that deal. It hasn't been finalized yet. Perhaps in the next, 48, 24 hours when this podcast gets released, it might get finalized. We have to talk about this, Allie. This is massive. Coffey was left off of the U.S. Women's National Team January roster, which is also very notable because that was a hint even before all of this kind of started bubbling up to the surface, because Emma Hayes very notably leaves a lot of WSL players off of that January roster because they are in season right now. And Sam Coffey being left off, well, that means a lot. Sam Coffey at City, I think it's a damn shame they're not playing in Champions League right now with this roster if she is added to City. That's how I would phrase this.
Really? Is that where you're going? You're like,
I think it's disappointing that this roster is wasted in the WSL only. That's how I feel.
Rude,
but not, because the title's already kind of theirs.
But it's not, and we're going to get onto it. It's not.
It's not. But
But it's not. Trust us. But it's not, and we're going to get onto it.
We're going to get onto it. Okay,
because it's not. And she was seen at the match this weekend, which we've seen before with Mewis. We've seen that before with So it's looking like pen to paper is almost there for Coffey at Man City.
All right, let's rip through some of these other ones in the WSL alone.
So in the WSL, I think a big one is Katie Robinson has dropped down to WSL 2, the championship. She's gone to Bristol City. I know producer, editor Mike has big feelings about Robbo. Obviously wasted at Villa. Didn't really get to do much at Villa, so she's gone back down to Bristol City, and I think that's huge considering this is a player that was in the World Cup squad just 2 years ago.
I agree. I completely agree.
The other big ones for me, and this is the one that I alluded to before, is Ashley Neville, who, if you'd said to anybody was going to retire at Tottenham, she has been with them from their climb up, from when they were a part-time team to becoming a WSL team. We thought that was it, that she was staying, has gone to Leicester on a permanent move and actually played against her old team this weekend. That one was a huge shock, I think, for people in the WSL.
It was massive. It was nice to see her be honored, though, also then by Tottenham when she came back in a Leicester City uniform this past weekend.
Absolutely. Finally, I think the other massive one as well is, which was a surprise to nobody because their media team put them out in the same video, but Shula and Lundqvist to Manchester United.
That's massive for United. Massive.
It's to shore up their Champions League, and they are rumoured to have more going out. Hannah Blondell is on loan to Everton at the moment. There is rumours that Rachel Williams will be going to another club. Again, probably that one's probably going to be more permanent than a loan. So again, those are huge moves by Manchester United.
All right. Do not discount United from Champions League, especially with those signings, I think. All right, we're going to finish this off. If you want to know more, maybe head to our Patreon. We'll do, Allie, asking you this in real time. We'll do a small Patreon and we'll go over acquisitions in this past 4 weeks from each NWSL team. And we'll talk about those because there has been a lot of movements. A lot of big names have moved, but I think we want to keep this kind of tight. And the last one we'll talk about is the news recently that Kaylin Sheridan and San Diego Wave mutually agreed to terminate her contract part ways, which was initially through 2026. And now Kaylin Sheridan has signed with North Carolina Courage through 2027.
I love how it says mutually. I feel like that's the official phrasing because Sheridan's partner very much put a post on Instagram that told a very different story.
I will say, San Diego Wave fans, you have a lot to look forward to. San Diego Wave signed arguably, I think, in my opinion, behind Jasmine Ike, the best midfielder out of college, Leah Godfrey from University of Virginia. Absolutely fantastic. And she's going to play for the Wave this upcoming season. So a lot to look forward to in that one as well. All right, so let's get into it. We are here to talk WSL, which came back this past weekend with a vengeance. I had personally circled Arsenal United for many a week. That ended in a draw. Back with some big matchups, big results. Do you want to start with the Arsenal United matchup and implications on standings, or do you want to dive right into the top of the table and what's going down with City and Chelsea right now?
No, because we do need to talk about the Manchester United and the Arsenal a bit all, because we need to know what's happened, because they have dropped off from being title contenders. I think we were all thinking that it could be Manchester United's year. They started off really strongly and then they have just petered right out. And Arsenal is right there with them, let's be honest. Like, there's been some real lackluster performances from Arsenal, whether it's just scraping draws, just scraping wins. And this game, on the surface, was not a great game. It really wasn't. Like, play-wise, I mean, you could put it to they're just coming back from a break, but to be honest, it wasn't good.
Correct me if I'm wrong. United had one win, I believe, in the WSL in December. But you look at their last multiple matchups. Let's just rip through these. They played Arsenal. They drew that one. Before that, their last game of 2025, they drew with Tottenham. Before that, they beat West Ham. That was the one win in December. Previous to that, they lost to City, they lost to Villa, and that's all since November 8th. That's one win since November 8th in the WSL. So like you said, they've really petered off. I think that they're very similar in the sense that these are two teams that don't make a ton of moves. There's a lot of tried and true players that have been there for a very long time. And at the end of the day, you have to go out and you have to make some bigger signings than they have made. And credit to United for doing that in the January transfer window. We'll see if that's enough. And then there's that added layer of both of them are splitting their time at Champions League. And they don't have as deep a roster as Chelsea. Like, Chelsea's roster is a lot deeper than either of these. And thus the drop off when you get into your 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th player is a lot bigger. And when you're playing this many games, you have to play that many people. And that's what happens.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We've talked about Manchester United's quite a threadbare squad. It's one of the smallest in terms of depth going. It's just, I was just really disappointed with this game. Like, it was just not a good game.
Yeah. And I think that that's maybe most surprising for the WSL. And I don't mean this as an insult. Please don't take it as one. But like, I think with the WSL.
You're going to do it with me.
Here we go.
I don't mean to offend, but.
I don't mean to offend, but here's something offensive. I think with the WSL, you get a lot of matchups that you look at and you're like, okay, Chelsea are going to win that 5-0 like they just did this past weekend. Maybe you'll get a bottom of the table matchup. That's kind of fun. But the ones that you really circle are kind of few and far between. And it's when a top of the table team meets a top of the table team. And the reason that's so exciting is because that is high caliber soccer most of the time. That is like the football that you really want to watch. And when a game is disappointing in terms of the football of it all, whether it's like 3-3 or 0-0, it doesn't matter. If the football is not what you wanted it to be, that's epically disappointing. And we can say they were coming back from break. They had 4 weeks off. They're not back in the flow. But I agree. It was a letdown in terms of just how the football was.
Do we talk top of the table between the two? Because we're disagreeing because you think it's on lock and I don't.
Okay, which of us should go first? Let's set the table, no pun intended. Manchester City, 11 wins, no draws, 1 loss, 33 points at the top of the table. They've won 5 out of their last 5. Chelsea, 8 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss, 27 points. By the way, they've only won 2 of their last 5 in the WSL. So they sit 6 points behind Manchester City. Notably, obviously, every team plays another one twice. So these two teams have already faced off once. Chelsea won that game. It was the first match of the season, and that is City's sole loss of the year. And now these two teams are going to play February 1st. City is hosting Chelsea. Okay, jump in. Why isn't it over? Because Chelsea only have 1 head-to-head left to make up 6 points right now. And you seem to think they're going to make it up somewhere else, and City are going to drop 1.
Because we've been here before. We have seen this before. 2 seasons ago, Manchester City had it on lock. All they had to do was beat Arsenal after Chelsea lost to Liverpool. And guess what? They lost to Arsenal. What did Chelsea then do? Smash Bristol City 9-0 and then took the title. Last season was supposed to be Manchester City's year. They came 4th and missed out on Champions League. So no, this Manchester City team is probably one of the strongest I've seen for a while, but you cannot guarantee that they will not throw it away. You cannot guarantee that because they've done it before.
I think it's fair to say that it's not a shoo-in, because it's not a shoo-in. History or not, it's not a shoo-in because it's only 6 points. And Chelsea can make up 3 of those points on February 1st in the head-to-head. However, like you said, City have been the best team this year. They've been utterly, essentially unstoppable. And then we're talking about adding Sam Coffey to that. Like, I just don't see a way this team, we're talking about how the quality's fallen off at the same time for United, for Arsenal. And I understand somebody can always...
You're such a hypocrite. You know that, right?
How am I being a hypocrite right now?
Because every time I talk about, like, teams bringing in certain players, you're like, but a player doesn't change a team. One player doesn't change a team. You can't bring in one player and the thing. And I guarantee Sam Coffey is a great player. But have you seen the Chelsea bench? Like, the bench they had against West Ham is another team's first team, hands down. So you can't, just because a US national player, you seen the hypocrisy?
No.
As soon as it was a US national team's player, it's like suddenly it's like,
let me tell you,
they're the greatest player. One player can change everything.
This is just how highly I think of Sam Coffey. I put her on the same plane as like a Kira Walsh, who can come in and change everything. We saw Sam Mewis do that, who I think is of that caliber as well. Generally speaking, no, I don't think one person can come in and change it. But like, look at this City team. And it's like, it's looking at that, but then it's also pairing it with the fact that we just talked about how Arsenal have fallen off. United have fallen off. Like, below Chelsea and City, there's a huge drop off. So if City just need to withstand the one game against Chelsea, they shouldn't drop points otherwise.
They shouldn't, but they can. This is the problem. You seem to think that once they beat Chelsea, the league is locked. And I don't think that's true.
I do think if they beat Chelsea, the league is locked, because that's 9 points. I don't know if they will beat Chelsea. The thing that has me is I don't see Chelsea being able to make up those extra 3 points. Like, where else is City going to lose?
The derby is always a very heightened, very crazy game. Brighton has been their Achilles heel before. Tottenham has been their Achilles heel before. And Tottenham are currently on a trajectory that we haven't seen Tottenham before right now. Look, I would love for Manchester City to win just so that it's not Chelsea again.
Can you believe we're like rooting for City to win this title? It pains me. See,
it pains me less. Because it's because the West Ham Chelsea.
Because you just don't want to get relegated.
Yeah, at this point, I'm like, yeah.
No offense.
No, see, you're being so offensive today. It's just so spicy because Arsenal have blown it.
Because, yeah, completely blown it. Oh, okay, let me ask you this. Of United, Arsenal, and Chelsea, who do you think is going to fare the best in the Champions League right now?
Potentially it's Manchester United, because this is their big one, and they've probably played the best so far. Because I've said it before that Chelsea's performances, while have been good, they've not been convincing, and it's been the same again. They picked up towards the end of the Champions League group stage, and I use that in air quotes, with a very convincing win against Wolfsburg and stuff like that. But as things go, I think Manchester United are the ones that are going to go furthest.
I agree, and it's so weird, but just based on how they've all played in the Champions League, that's what I think as well. And then you also, I mean, it kind of seems like United are throwing everything at the Champions League. Weirdly, it seems like Chelsea just have a better shot at the title right now, but we'll find out. Arsenal, I can't even. We're not even talking about Arsenal right now.
Would it not be hilarious if Spurs claimed the third Champions League spot for next season?
It would not be hilarious, for the record.
I don't want it to happen either, but I still think it would be hilarious.
Okay, for everybody listening, Arsenal and Tottenham both sit tied at 23 points. Arsenal are ahead of Tottenham in the table because of goal differential, and it's a pretty big difference in goal differential. So if they do end up tied on points, I'm assuming that Arsenal will continue to take it on goal differential. But the fact even that they're tied in third place right now is insane to me. And no, it would not be funny.
Can we talk about London City very quickly? Because it was a surprising result this weekend, and also this happened just as we went on break. They fired their manager because, and I quote from Michelle Kang, that they hadn't reached expectations so far and they wanted to give themselves the best.
This lady has high expectations. She knows what she wants, okay? She wants Champions League in the first season, and London City are currently sitting in 7th, so that is well below expectations. But I don't necessarily think firing your manager halfway through your inaugural season is the answer to this. I would agree.
Also, no offense to the guy that they've brought in. So it's a guy called Mastri that they've brought in. His previous experience was for Tenerife in La Liga. No offense, they're not a team that's fighting for Champions League in La Liga. They're not. So why does she think this is a better decision? I don't understand. And clearly, they drew with bottom of the table Liverpool. So, yeah, I think it's crazy. I don't understand what's happening there. I think in terms of a team that's been promoted, they are probably the most successful so far, and by that standard, they've done brilliantly. However, by the Kang standard, they've already failed, and it's only halfway through the season.
Anybody else's inaugural season, we're like, this is outstanding. But per what she publicly said about what they intend to do in this 2025-2026 seasons, it is not up to par. Okay, final WSL question, Allie. On April 26th, on match day number 20 of 22 of the WSL, Liverpool will host West Ham. Liverpool currently sit in last place, 1 point below West Ham. Do you think that one game will decide who is relegated and who is not?
No.
Also, we should remind everybody that there are different relegation rules this year.
There are different relegation rules this year, but no, because there are too many winnable games from each team before that. I genuinely think we will have an answer probably by March.
Probably before that game gets played. All right, so to remind everybody, the WSL relegation is now a playoff system for this 1 year, which is introduced so that the league can expand from 12 teams to 14 teams. So there's going to be 14 teams in the 26-27 season. So now at the end of this 25-26 season, the bottom place WSL team plays the third place WSL 2 team for the final spot in the expanded top flight, in the final spot in the WSL 1. In other words, Obviously, still 1 through 11 in the WSL are safe. The top 2 teams in the WSL 2 will be promoted. And then the bottom WSL 1 and third place WSL 2 will play each other for that final 14th spot. So I suppose we might not lose anybody.
Yeah, that's the thing. It could be very much that team beats the third place team, and that's it. And that's the end of that.
That's it. All right. That's it for WSL right now. We'll be back with it again, obviously, next week and the week after. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
It's a slightly shorter edition this week because these are the only 3 leagues other than the WSL that is back. So we're going to start off with Spain, and Barcelona had a league record win this weekend, winning 12-1 to remain 7 points clear at the top. Real Madrid also won to remain in second. However, the game of the week has to go to Atletico Madrid, who drew this weekend with Sociedad 5-5.
And over to Mexico, La Liga MX is back. Monterrey currently top the table with 2 wins out of 2. Pachuca are close behind, equal on points, and just 2 goals less on the differential. Cruz Azul round out the top 3.
And finally to France, and it was around 16 in the Coupe de France this weekend. Big wins for Lyon, PSG and Paris FC saw them advance to the quarters. However, it was Le Mans who came up with the result of the tournament, qualifying after a 7-1 win. So, moving on to what the heck news, because that's what I'm calling it when I first read this. I'm trying to be slightly clean. Qatar are in talks with FIFA about staging the first Women's Club World Cup, which will take place in 2028. For anybody who follows men's football will know that there was one recently this summer, which Chelsea took.
The one this summer wasn't in Qatar, though, was it? No. But the Men's World Cup was in the U.S. Oh, that's what all that fanfare was. The amount I don't follow men's sport or men's soccer is like kind of wild. Okay, let's keep going because there's so much wrong with this.
Many things. So Matt Hughes for The Guardian reported on Monday of this week that there's going to be a new competition. Again, it's going to mirror the men's calendar, but they've not said where it's going to be held, just that that's what they've decided, that what they're going to do. And now we know that Qatar have thrown their hat in the ring. We have to say that their women's national team was formed in 2009, but they have not played a match for 12 years, and nor do they have an official FIFA ranking.
Yeah. All right. The final thing is that the inaugural Women's Club World Cup would feature 16 teams. It would be at least 5 from Europe, 2 from Asia, 2 from Africa, 2 from South America, and 2 from North America. Assuming, Donald Trump doesn't take over all of the Americas. Maybe we can cut that part out. I don't know. It's pertinent and it's sad. And anyways, let's move on. A club from each of those 5 confederations and 1 from Oceania will play in a qualifying tournament to determine the final 3 entrants. I don't even know what to say, Allie. This is so stupid. Like, would players actually do this? Can you imagine? I'm trying to imagine being like a professional athlete right now, and even with whatever protections in air quotes they would like give professional athletes in Qatar, so many women's soccer players are like out and outwardly part of the LGBTQIA plus group. I don't know why I said group, but the word's not coming to me. Whatever team I'm on.
They're part of the Alphabet Mafia.
Thank you. The Alphabet Mafia. They're part of my crew, okay? Listen, I can't imagine feeling safe going there. Like, this is, for so many reasons, horrifying and absurd. And I know we're not here to talk about men's soccer, but it obviously bleeds into what's happening in men's soccer right now with both, what's the word you guys use for it?
Sports washing.
Sports washing. That is even happening more for the upcoming Men's World Cup that's coming to Canada, United States, and Mexico. Like, that's been absurd. This is sports washing at its absolute finest. And I mean, yeah. And you've seen this whole journey in terms of the Men's Club World Cup as well, as you were saying to us before we were recording.
Yeah, no, we've seen it before. Look, FIFA are not the greatest when it comes to this. The last World Cups have been in Russia, Qatar, and now, no offense, the USA, which is an equally painful place. Yeah, painful place right now. Despite his peace trophy that he got in the
I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
But it's true, and this is, we've also seen it in Saudi in the creation of the Women's League in Saudi, which, let's be honest, doesn't get talked about that much. We've had a couple of high-profile players go across there, but it's still not great. And the fact that they have women fans aren't allowed to watch the teams, or if they do, there's so many restrictions placed on them. Also, are travelling fans going to want to go to this? Because, as you said, there's a lot of LGBTQ plus fans that definitely don't want to go over there. And we saw it in the Men's World Cup with Qatar that they were told they weren't allowed to wear the One Love armbands because it was going to, you have to assimilate within the local culture. And I know that there were a few pundits, Alex Scott being one of them, that refused and wore an armband as a statement, as she said she is a queer woman. There is all sorts of things wrong with this.
There's also two layers to talk about. First, if there is a Women's Club World Cup, 100% it shouldn't be in Qatar. I feel like we just covered that. But the part we haven't covered is, do you like the idea of a Women's Club World Cup?
No, I think it's dumb. Like, we talk about so much on this podcast and as a whole about fixture congestion. And we keep adding these tournaments that mean nothing for no good reason. And I just think it's so stupid.
Here's the thing. I think I'd have less of a problem with it so for a while ago, all of the commissioners of, I think, as many leagues as they possibly could all decided that, women's leagues as they possibly could, all decided that they would have this like summit. I don't know if it's biannually or annually, but apparently it was all to discuss like, how do we kind of take control of the future of women's soccer, specifically in the club game. And this is like the opposite of that. I think I would have less of a problem with it if it wasn't so clearly like a FIFA money grab. Like if this was all of the commissioners of a lot of these huge leagues coming together and thinking it through and saying, okay, what part of the schedule would this work in? How can we make sure this doesn't add more of a workload? Let's think this out and let's do it, because it would be a blast. And as a fan, of course I want to see Arsenal take on Gotham. Like, are you kidding me? Those are two of my squads. Of course I want to watch that and see what happens. But it's just, it's not like, it's not like this. That's not like this. That's not how I want to see it.
Speaking of developing stories, because the saga that will never end, it seems, we have to give you an update on the Trinity Rodman high impact player situation, because it's still ongoing.
Yeah. So we're not going to do an entire recap. We did that in, I believe, our last two episodes of 2025. But the short version is, of course, Washington Spirit wanted to offer Trinity more money to stay. NWSL said no, no, no. And then they came up with this absurd idea of what they call a high impact player award, which essentially would mean that a certain number of players would exist outside of the salary cap. And I believe, okay, we're not going to go into the details of it because I don't have the exact dollar signs pulled up. Anyways, the NWSLPA has specifically come out as soon as that high impact player concept was announced. The NWSLPA has specifically come out and said, we do not like this. The NWSLPA executive director, Megan Burke, said last Wednesday that the Players Association and league specifically disagree on whether the rule fits the definition of a roster classification, which would then determine if the mechanism needs to be collectively bargained or not. So that's really specific, but right now that's where we're at, is that the NWSL came out and said, hey, here's this high impact player award. We're going to implement it. And Washington Spirit, you can use that $1 million to pay Trinity, and that's her salary, and it exists outside of the salary cap. And the NWSLPA filed a grievance saying we don't agree with this. And it all, at the end of the day, is going to come back, as it always does, to the legal verbiage, basically. So the section states, quote, NWSL may, in its discretion, after consultation with the NWSLPA, increase the team salary cap in any year. The NWSL may, in its discretion, after consultation with the NWSLPA, reduce or eliminate the salary cap charge against the team salary cap for certain roster classifications. So the NWSL claims that it consulted the NWSL Players Association, and they didn't need to go any further than that. However, the Players Association, their position is that the league actually didn't consult them on this. And Megan Burke, as I just mentioned, executive director of the Players Association, has said that the roster classifications mentioned in the collective bargaining agreement should be strictly related to a team's ability to field a competitive team, and anything beyond that becomes a matter of salary, which would then need to be collectively bargained. And I should note that their CBA goes through 2030. So I guess with all of that, like, where do we sit right now? I think the reason we haven't seen further updates is because we saw the NWSL come out with this high impact player award. We saw that the NWSLPA filed a grievance on behalf of Trinity Rodman for that. And now we're just waiting. So initially the league was given just 2 weeks to respond to that grievance. They requested an extension, to which the NWSL Players Association agreed to that extension. But Megan Burke was very clear in saying that was a courtesy, and we expect a response to be forthcoming. Those were her exact words. So we are sitting in limbo, really. This all happened kind of right before we went off to break, Allie. And so the only thing that's happened in between is that the NWSL requested an extension. It was granted by the Players Association. This is a lot because, like we just said, Challenge Cup's in a month. Season starts in 2.
The only thing we can say is that she's not going to join the WSL probably at this point. But that's all we know, because she's unattached.
Yeah. She was listed as unattached on the January U.S. Women's National Team roster. Emma Hayes actually spoke about her and kind of said, I think it would be good for Trinity, and it would be good for the game of football and for the NWSL if Trinity stays in the NWSL. So I do think that with Emma Hayes saying that, and the fact that Trinity, even with all of this legal crap, there haven't been rumors of her also being in talks with WSL teams. Like, I do think it's safe to say that she's going to stay in the WSL unless we start to come down to the wire and we're in March and nothing's happened. I think at that point she's going to be like, I want to go play some soccer, and maybe something will change. But that's my opinion. All right, that's where we are. We're going to keep everybody updated. I would say the league got a 2-week extension. They've had, I would say, 4 total weeks. And so we do expect a response soon, especially with everything upcoming. So we will see.
And that is it here from us at the Women's Soccer Show, first show of 2026. As ever, please make sure you check out our Patreon. There's lots of goodies and extra content on there, and it does help us make this show even better.
All right, and that's it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show. We'll see you next Wednesday. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.